Wow, so much to unpack after this election. Um, a second term for Trump and, all this talk about Project 2025 and the policies that might come from that,
Mm.
it's a lot to process. And a lot of you are sharing materials that really get at like this collective anxiety, especially when we think about, well, the impact on certain communities, BIPOC communities, immigrants, LGBTQ plus folks, women. It's heavy stuff. But you're also really curious about how Abraham Hicks, well, how these teachings might offer a different way to see all this, a way to navigate all this uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's totally understandable to feel overwhelmed. We see this a lot, actually, when things feel chaotic out there, in the world. People naturally start looking for that inner stability, and that's where these teachings, that's where they can be so powerful.
One thing that really jumped out at me from the stuff you all are sharing is, well, it's this idea that our well-being is not really dictated by, I don't know, by who's in office or what laws they pass. I mean, that's a pretty radical idea, isn't it, when you really think about it?
It is radical because it really challenges like those ingrained beliefs about, how we think the world works. But that's really the heart of Abraham Hicks, right? You're the creator. You create your own reality. You're not just a victim of circumstance.
Okay, but let's be real for a minute. I mean, there was a ton of fear out there. People are using words like grief,
Mm,
terror, even, hopelessness.
mm.
So how do we square that, with this idea of creating our own reality, especially when the policies that are being talked about, I mean, when they feel genuinely harmful?
Right, and it's not about dismissing those fears. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's more about like understanding where we're putting our attention. Are we hyper focused on all the bad stuff that could happen, or are we actively creating something different through, our thoughts, our feelings, what we're doing?
So in one of the clips, Abraham mentions that presidents, that they have like a minuscule influence compared to, our own vibration. What does that even mean, though? I mean, policies, they have a real impact on people's lives.
Think of it this way. The teachings talk about this thing called the vortex. And it's a state of being, where you're lined up with source energy, where like your vibration matches what you want. So when we're all wrapped up in fear, we're actually we're feeding that energy, we're attracting more of it. It's not about ignoring what's happening politically. It's about being more conscious of where our energy is going.
Okay, that makes sense. But it also feels kind of like, I don't know, contradictory. Because in another clip, Abraham talks about how we can influence elections. So which is it? Can we have an impact or can we not? And if we can, well, what does that even look like when things feel so stacked against us?
That's where it gets really interesting. Abraham Hicks, they talk about this paradox. Influence, it doesn't come from trying to force things to go a certain way or trying to control everything and everyone. It comes from aligning with source energy, aligning with the vibration of what you want to see. It's subtle, but it's super powerful.
So it's not about manipulating the system or, trying to control other people. It's about becoming a vibrational match for the reality we want. But how do we do that when things feel so, I don't know, bleak, so heavy?
One way is to shift our focus from what is to what I want. Instead of doom scrolling and getting caught up in all the negativity, we can focus on the feelings, the outcomes we desire. Actually, there's an article you shared that speaks to this beautifully.
Oh, right. Instead of constantly focusing on what we don't want, we can get really specific about the feelings we do want. Things like safety, inclusion, thriving. It's
Yeah.
like that changes the whole energy, doesn't it?
It totally does. It's about going from feeling like a victim to being a deliberate creator. Like you are in the driver's seat.
It makes you wonder, what if we all, what if everybody just focused on those I want feelings? No matter who's in office, what kind of world could we create?
That's the power of, collective consciousness. And it's something Abraham Hicks talks about all the time. Our vibration, both individually and as a group, it plays a part in shaping reality. It's like a ripple effect, each of us adding to the energy of the whole.
I'm feeling a shift just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do we hold on to that feeling of empowerment when, well, when the reality we're facing feels so disempowering?
Hmm.
Especially for people who are, who are already marginalized,
Yeah.
people who might be harmed by these policies.
That's where trust comes in. Trusting the process, trusting the universe, and trusting your own resilience. You've gotten through tough times before. You have the strength to get through this too. It's about understanding that, even though things might feel chaotic out there, we can still create that sense of peace and stability within ourselves.
So, okay, so we can't control what's happening out there,
Yeah.
like the actual policies, all the talk, the fear-mongering, all that. But we can control what's happening inside, like in our own minds and hearts.
Exactly. And that's really where the work begins, right? It's about, cultivating that resilience, that unwavering well-being, no matter what's going on around us.
I love that, like building an inner bunker
Yeah.
of peace and joy that no outside force can touch.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? Especially when it feels like, I mean, these policies, they feel like they're attacking our communities,
Hmm.
our values, our very sense of like safety and belonging.
Well, remember those I want statements we were talking about? They're not just wishful thinking, they're like a powerful tool for aligning with that energy, the energy of what we want.
So instead of getting lost in all the fear, all the anger, we focus on like on the world we want to create, a world where everyone feels safe, respected, valued, regardless of race, religion, gender, immigration status, all of that.
Right. It's about holding on to that vision in our minds and hearts and letting that energy guide us, guide our thoughts, our feelings, how we act.
But what if it feels like the world is going in the opposite direction? What if, I don't know, what if those I want statements feel like a fantasy when the reality, I mean, when the reality is so different, so harsh?
And that's where faith comes in, trust. Believing that, even though we might not see the whole picture, there's something bigger at work, guiding us towards something better.
So it's like trusting that even if these policies, even if they feel like a step backwards, they're somehow part of a bigger plan, a plan that, I don't know, that leads to good, ultimately.
It's about recognizing that, well, we don't always understand everything, right? But we can trust that the universe, that it's always unfolding in this perfect harmony.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get that.
Huh.
But it still feels like there's this tension between accepting what is
Mm-hmm.
and taking action to change it, to change what we don't like. How do we balance those two things? They seem so opposite.
It's not about just passively accepting everything. It's more about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to any situation.
So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between acceptance and action. Accepting what is, but also like taking steps to create the world we want to see.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's about recognizing that we're not powerless. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our feelings, how we act, and those choices, they matter, especially now.
One thing that really stuck with me from those clips about elections was that, well, Abraham seemed to really emphasize personal responsibility more than, I don't know, more than trying to control what other people do.
Yeah, that's a key point. It's easy to get caught up in blame, pointing fingers at politicians, at political parties. But at the end of the day, the only person we can really control is ourselves.
So instead of getting lost in all the drama of politics, we focus on like our own alignment, on becoming, the best versions of ourselves.
Right. And here's the thing. When we focus on our own growth, on expanding, on becoming more, our vibration, it naturally goes up, it elevates, and that has an effect on the world around us. It creates a ripple effect.
So even if we can't directly change, who wins an election or the policies they put in place, we can control our own energy. And that energy, like, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond, right? The ripples, they spread out, they touch everything.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how, like, our well-being, it's not separate from everyone else's. We're all connected. Our energy affects each other.
Exactly. We're all part of this larger tapestry. And every thread, it contributes to the whole design. So when we choose to focus on love, on compassion, on understanding, we're not just helping ourselves, we're helping to create a more harmonious world.
Okay, I'm starting to see that, but it still feels like there's so much uncertainty. What about all the things that are causing us pain, suffering? How does that fit in with this idea that we're creating our own reality?
That's something a lot of people struggle with. And it's important to remember that, we don't live in a vacuum. We're all part of a bigger system. And there are things that happen, events, circumstances that are outside our control, things that can cause pain.
So it's not our fault if bad things happen.
It's not about blame. It's about understanding that we're all part of this larger tapestry. And there are threads in that tapestry that we don't individually weave. But even within that tapestry, we still have the power to choose how we respond, how we feel, how we move forward.
Okay, I'm seeing a little bit of hope here. Even when things are hard, we still have that choice.
Mhm.
The choice to decide how we see things, how we react, how we act.
Exactly. And that's where the real power is. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on what we want to see, cultivating that inner strength. and trusting that even in the dark times, there's always a glimmer of hope. It's about, recognizing that we're not like separate from source, from that infinite wellspring of love and wisdom, all that flows through everything.
So it's like we're tapping into that energy,
Mm.
that universal energy, and letting it, I don't know, letting it flow through us, guide our action.
Exactly. And when we do that, when we really tap in, we become like these conduits for positive change.
I mean, you need to think of that quote, be the change you want to see. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts. It's about, like, living it,
Yeah.
embodying it.
And remember, even those small acts, kindness, compassion, courage, even those little things can have a ripple effect. They can inspire others to do the same.
It's like we're each, I don't know, like a tiny spark of light.
Yeah.
And when we come together, all those sparks, it's like a bonfire that can, like, light up the darkness.
That's a beautiful image and so true. We have the power to create a world filled with love, with peace, with harmony, one thought, one feeling, one action at a time.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more hopeful. The sense of possibility.
Yeah.
But I mean, what about those times when fear creeps back in, doubt? What do we do when those negative thoughts start swirling around? Especially with all this, all this talk about these policies.
That's where the teachings of Abraham Hicks, they offer these practical tools for like shifting our motivation. And one of the most powerful tools is, well, gratitude.
Gratitude, but how does that help when things feel so bleak?
Gratitude, it's a high frequency emotion. And when we focus on what we're grateful for, our energy, it naturally rises. It lifts us out of that fear-based thinking and into a space of, you know, appreciation, abundance.
So even when things are tough, there are always things to be grateful for.
Always. It might be, the warmth of the sun, the love of your family and friends, even just like the breath in your lungs. So when we focus on those things, we're making space for more good to come in, more positivity, more joy.
Like we're training our minds
Yeah,
to see the good, to focus on the blessings instead of, and instead of getting bogged down by all the hard stuff.
exactly. And the more we practice gratitude, the more we realize that even in those dark moments, there's always something to be thankful for.
But what about, the people who are really being affected by these policies? How can gratitude help them when they're facing real threats to their safety, their well-being?
That's a good point. And it's important to acknowledge that, gratitude, it's not a magic cure. It doesn't make the challenges disappear. But even in those tough times, gratitude can be a source of strength, a source of resilience.
Can you give me an example of
Yeah.
how that might work?
Sure. Imagine like someone who's facing discrimination because of their race, their religion, their sexual orientation. They might feel, angry, hurt, powerless. But if they can find a moment to be grateful, for the people who support them, for their own inner strengths, for the chance to fight for what's right, well, that can shift their energy. It can give them the power to keep going.
So gratitude, it's not about pretending everything is okay. It's about finding those little glimmers of light, those moments of joy, of appreciation, even in the darkness.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even in the most challenging times, there's always something to be grateful for. And
Yeah.
those moments of gratitude, they can fuel us. They can inspire us to keep moving forward.
I'm starting to see how powerful this can be. But what about those times when gratitude feels impossible? Like you're just so overwhelmed with fear, with anxiety that you can't even think about the good stuff.
That's where self-care comes in. It's about, remembering that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
We need to refill our own energy, nourish ourselves, our minds, our bodies, our spirits, so we have the strength, the resilience to deal with these challenges.
So it's like giving ourselves permission
Mm.
to rest,
Yeah.
to recharge, to refill that energy.
Exactly. And it looks different for everyone, right? For some people, it might be spending time in nature, meditating, doing yoga. For others, it might be reading a good book, listening to music, taking a long bath.
It's about finding those things that bring us joy, that bring us peace, and,
Yeah.
and making them a priority.
Exactly. And remember, it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's essential. When we're depleted, when we're drained, we can't show up, not for ourselves, not for our loved ones, not for the things that matter to us.
Okay, I'm really seeing the importance of self-care now, especially now. It's like, putting on your own oxygen mask first before you help others.
Exactly. When we take care of ourselves, we're better equipped to handle everything life throws at us and to make a positive difference in the world.
This has been incredible. We've talked about so much. The power of our vibration, gratitude, self-care, taking inspired action. I'm starting to see how these teachings, they can help us not just survive, but actually thrive, even when things are tough.
You are powerful more than you know. You have the ability inside you to create a reality that matches your dreams, your values. Don't underestimate the ripple effect of your own well-being.
It's a good reminder that even when things are dark, our light still shines. And when we choose to focus on that light, we light the way for ourselves and for others.
Beautifully said. Keep exploring these teachings. See what resonates, and see how it changes your experience, how you see the world.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey, a journey of, well, exploration and empowerment.